Look who it is. It is your captain. He's in the house. Oh, he's rocking the Cardinal Mooney. He's rocking it for Jared.
Got to support my brother, classmate, teammate, Jared. Elijah Golden, John, the cherry on top of this Sunday, brother.
Yeah, it is. It's a really, really, what a good thing to add in, Mike, with all the camp stuff that everybody's all wrapped up in, and you add something like this onto this class. Really, I'm proud of Jared, man. That is a great Notre Dame story. To play at Notre Dame, then become this championship-winning coach and develop a young guy that you can lead down the Notre Dame path. That is full circle Notre Dame to me. It's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And tomorrow night on Patreon, obviously Jared is a contributor, does an amazing job with that. I was blown away at how good he was walking us through the offensive side of the ball last year. It's just a natural. But he's going to be on Sunday night to talk about Eli as a player, his recruitment. So that'll be a really fun kind of off the cuff show. Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's and I saw this note. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter earlier or not, Mike. Pete Sampson posted it. Notre Dame hosted 12 uncommitted guys in June. They have since landed 11 out of the 12. That's really specific, targeted, great work. That really is a good job in the summer.
So you're telling me Chad Bowden isn't irreplaceable, John? Is that accurate?
Whoa, he surfs up, bro. Hang 10.
When Chad Bowden took off for LA, it was like, oh, he's irreplaceable. I remember reading that. It's like, yeah, it's just a theme of Marcus Freeman, the continued improvement. I think Freeman and staff have learned from some of these losses, these late losses in the recruiting cycle. Several have like kind of become infamous. So yeah, man, he's gotten better. And dude, we're going to land in the NIL era. Like we're going to have a top 5 class, which is, it's incredible. It's remarkable, assuming you keep the class together, right? There's no late defectors, but hats off. And when Marcus Freeman first got here, that was one of the things that you had kind of banked on, fingers crossed. Like you knew the guy could recruit, you knew the makeup, the charisma, all of the things, the energy, the work ethic. It took a couple years for it to come to fruition, but we've got some like different dudes. Yeah, we're the Bash Brothers, John. Hit him with the double bicep, dude.
Hit it with it. Hit it with it. Let's go, baby.
We need one of those posters, dude. We need a poster.
Yeah, it's not quite Sammy Sosa and Mark McGuire. It isn't that. But we're getting there. I like it. Yeah. Well, you know what we should do for Halloween one year, dude? You got a little Triple H in you, and I should do the Shawn Michaels. You had the big guy and the little guy, and we just go around and make it happen. Like, you got to have the big guy and the little guy to make it work.
I do get the Triple H thing. You could do worse, I suppose. You could do worse.
Yeah. And so, Mike, I just think that's a terrific pickup. I do. And I defer to you on body types, body styles, roster compilation, all that. But, man, this team just looks very, very different, even just in Freeman's short time each year. Dude, this looks like a different kind of Notre Dame roster and one that should be able to compete.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I still think we're not to say it's again, how do you phrase something, right? How do you set this up? Not that we're a year away, but as this younger, longer, explosive talent gets a little bit more mature and you get a couple more of those kids through the door, like the next 2-3 years are going to be a blast. Yeah,
you've been targeting that window for a while now. You've been looking at that, being like, that is where the prime of all the new athletes and the new vision, everything is going to really be and take off.
Yeah, but just quick thoughts on Elijah. And again, we'll get really into the weeds tomorrow night, but super raw kid, like highly rated at one point in the cycle, whatever these recruiting services, they're all the same recruiting service inevitably, but he was like the number 1 defensive lineman in his class going back a few months ago. But he's raw. So as excited as we are about the young man, I think he's going to be a rotational kid. And getting ready for this program, I was thinking about Riley Mills. Like we watched Riley Mills play football for 5 years, and it took him damn near 5 years to become the Riley Mills that he'll be remembered for. And I think Elijah could be one of those kind of rotational guys for a year or two and then explodes and could potentially be like a 3-year player for us. I do.
Yeah, man, it's a really good job by this staff. Like you said, you got to make sure you don't lose anyone. But man, last I looked, Notre Dame was sitting at number 3 on 247. Take that, leave it, whatever. But it is
incredible.
It's a helpful barometer. That is, I mean, that's where we hoped the Freeman Air recruiting would get. Like, that's what was in our minds when you made the trade-off for a coach with no head coaching experience. You're like, something's got to make up for it. That recruiting was it. And now you're getting there. So keep it up. Hold on to these guys. Don't leak at the end.
Yeah. And if you watch the commitment, I saw you in there. I think a lot of us were in there on the CBS Sports thing, his live commitment. Questions asked, what about Notre Dame, et cetera. He talked about the relationships with the coaches. And what did he say? He's like, they finished it out. Like they grinded that recruitment out. They showed me love, but I'm sure there was some commas involved, right, John? But to the point, I was listening to Jack's call, comparing a Brian Kelly era to a Marcus Freeman era. This is yet another example where Marcus and staff are willing to choose hard and put in the work to bring it home. So just if this class finishes up, it's remarkable, man.
Yeah, it's so you feel good about that. Good little bonus pick up there in August. You love it. Then we start thinking about camp. This is a very interesting week for this, Mike, because it is the third and final week of your camp time before things transition for the final 2 weeks into Miami prep. I don't know where things stand with the quarterback. Just in the time of this chat, I got half the people saying it's going to be Minchie, half the people saying it's got to be Carr. Does it get figured out by next weekend when you make that division and start prepping for Miami? Or is there a chance it keeps going? Because we don't know.
Whatever team you're on, I think we're going to be happy with either player.
Yep.
It does feel like there's a scrimmage next Sunday, so basically a week from now, and coming out of that, you might have your winner. So it's just the longer it goes, the pressure's ratcheted up, and then you're hit with another wall of pressure for the Miami game. And I just, like I said, I think that Kenny we talked about it many, many times on Patreon. And if you're here, jump over there, for crying out loud. Promo code ND25. It's $10. You spent more than that in coffee the last 3 days. But the longer this thing lingers with the wiring, I kind of like Kenny because he's going to be steady and cool. He's not going to CJ wants to be great. Talked about this. Greatness is a process. It's an evolution. You're not going to be great in 2-3 weeks of training camp. So sometimes consistency, John, is just the best measure of overall performance, and then Denbrock's made comments kind of alluding to such.
Yeah, it's and before you jumped on, I don't know if you would have heard this or not, but it is a little unique. Like you said, you don't have two different camps with like the fan base and media where it's like vicious to the other one. Both of them are likable kids in their own way, bring their own little vibe that everybody likes. People may have an opinion, but the week leading into Miami, if we have a guy named, everybody in Notre Dame land's going to rally behind that kid. Either way it goes. And I just think that makes it a little unique. It isn't like these tribal camps where you're really vicious against the guy you don't want to win. I don't feel that. So this is more like wait and see, and then we'll get behind whoever it is. And probably the other guy's going to have to help out too at some point.
There's a lot of psychology there. I do think like the Angeli's army, the folks that were pulling for Angeli, Notre Dame guy, felt like he deserved it. He bided his time. So you totally understood where they might be like anti-CJ or anti-Kenny. But yeah, none of us have seen enough from Kenny or CJ to have a strong opinion. I just think whatever camp people jumped into, John, ultimately they just didn't want to be wrong. Nobody wants to be wrong, right? Oh, I think it's going to be Carr. You might be wrong. Oh, I think it's going to be Kenny. You might be wrong. So I just think that's a human piece to it. But what I'm looking for, I think a lot of the callers have been spot on with this. You lean on your defense. Was it Frawley said it? Lou Holtz would talk about when you go on a road, big road game, bring your defense. discipline, and a kicker, we might not need this quarterback to win us this game. This game, A&M, I think, is going to be a tougher task. But, yeah, it's going to be fun. And I just think rookie mistakes are going to happen. And if the CJ Carr, Kenny thing, if it's 60-40 Carr, 70-30 Carr, that if and when Kenny's the name of the starter and if and when Kenny makes a boneheaded mistake, that's what I want to see, John, is which kid is critiqued harder, whether CJ makes a rookie mistake or Kenny makes a rookie mistake. I wonder who's going to get raked over the coals, right?
Yeah. It's going to be – I've been a guy like at some point you're going to have to put down your roots, go with a homegrown quarterback and do all that. It sounds great in theory. And then you realize how hard it could be. And then nobody wants to deal with the process. That's kind of where we're at here of like, you want the finished result of a homegrown product, not all of those steps up the ladder. That's kind of a little bit what I'm feeling. Mike, here's a question here. This is a good one here from one of the Patreon guys. Goolsby, how much more zone do you think we're going to see? Is this overblown? It kind of turned into like now they're going to be in dink and dunk zone, the whole game and whatever. What do you think are the realities of this?
It's you're going to see more because last year, the games that we did try to weave in a little bit of zone coverage at times in the playoff, USC really jumps out to me. And the kids just weren't comfortable with it, right? They weren't super familiar with it, how to pattern read. Yes. And this is the big challenge for the offseason, or for me in the offseason, getting ready to do the All 22 on Patreon. Yeah, again, $10, promo code ND25. I'm not bashful, John. Is being able to decipher these coverages. Because, like in my era, it was cover 4, cover 2. It's like now everything's a hybrid. So, even watching the film last year was like, hell, it was 90% man-to-man, but there were zone elements. You'd have Watts coming down to play Robert, but we're going to see more of it. The biggest question, John Massey, to me is pass rush, baby. Pass rush and the back end, specifically zone, they are married, right? They affect one another. So that's going to be, again, just something where your eyes should be trained on third down, D-line. Go ahead, John.
How do you feel about Notre Dame stopping the run this year? Is that an anxiety you have, or do you feel pretty comfortable there with that aspect of it? What about that run defense?
Yeah, I mean, every time I mention Patreon, have a sip, gang. But
link in the description, by the way.
As good as Riley Mills was, and Howard Cross was an All-American at one point, played on one leg all last year. I believe our D-line could be better. Riley Mills wasn't great against the run. Looked at that on film a lot. I prefer Gabe Rubio against the run. You're bigger this year. What do we call him, John? The Cheesecake Factory. So I'd like for that to catch legs and grow legs in the Notre Dame fandom. Call the D-line the Cheesecake Factory, John. You've got every type of athlete, body type. You got 340-pound guys. And you got a 270-pound guy in Heinisch playing the same position, more or less, right? So whatever you want out of your D-line, we got it on the shelf. We got it on the menu, Cheesecake Factory. So I think we're bigger. We're more variable. And as a former Mike linebacker, I'm really curious to watch a KBA, Drake Bowen, and Osbury's got a great feel for the game. I don't think these young men are going to be triggered pre-snap, predetermined, calling the huddle. I'm going. They're sending me in the B gap, the A gap, whatever. I have a sense we're going to read things out on the fly. And who has the best feel for the game, like a KBA, Bowen, Osbury? Sneed's a big question mark. Has he finally developed that feel? So I don't know if I'm answering your question, John, but I think defensive line, you've got penetrators, you got run stuffers, and I really like the group at linebacker. Just be curious to see who has the best feel to fit that thing up.
With that D-line, is it part of your confidence that there's a heavier rotation with the deeper roster of guys that can all contribute so that it's like on certain situations, down and distance or time at the part of the game, whatever it's going to be, you could deploy more guys in there at their specialty at the right down and distance to do whatever it's be a run stuffer on this play, get pressure on this play. Like, it just feels like they're deeper there. They can rotate without having a big drop off. You still think that?
1,000%. 1,000%. Yeah. That Cheesecake Factory. And go back to last year. Howard Cross is an All-American the season prior. Riley Mills is a fifth-year player, captain, freak list guy. It's like, of course they're going to play. I don't know if we have that guy. You got Anye, who's over 300 pounds now. You've got Rubio, and you've got Heinisch has played a ton. Outside of that, Mookum, big, beautiful, thick, bouncy SEC type athlete. You got Cebulano. You got your ends. I'd love to see a rotation. Because there isn't there aren't those two like alpha proven guys in the way that Mills and Cross were.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, but I know how insightful you are and how much you think about this stuff. I know you're going to have a good answer. But with you sitting here and us thinking about this, I'm going to ask you, what do you think is a storyline going on in this camp that isn't getting talked about enough? Maybe because of all the attention with the quarterbacks or whatever. But is there a narrative there or something going on in this camp that you see, you like, you don't like, whatever it is, that you just don't think is getting the attention it deserves? It could be a big damn deal.
Yeah. And of course, all roads lead back to quarterback, right, John? So again, careful who you listen to. So Greg McElroy, Notre Dame's got the #1 offensive line, Joe Moore award list, yada, yada, yada. And then you lose the most talented player in Jagasaw. I'll tear this shirt right in half, brother. So I never thought the offensive line was going to be as dominant or as big of a strength as most did. I think the defensive line is going to be more of a strength than the offensive line. The injury to Jagasaw is not being talked about enough, me personally. Now, granted, John, the kid's only played 2 games, but if you watch the film, you know. And I'll never forget last year, whatever game it was, Jagasaw's playing, and I'm like, man, Jared, look at Jagasaw's movement. Like, just look at how – and he's like, how big is he? And I was like, he's like 6'6", 330. He's like, you're kidding me, because he moves like a cat. So the narrative where it's like Sullivan Apsher and Jagasaw are 1A and 1B, I don't know if I buy that yet. And I think it's – and again, Jagasaw played in like an option offense, a ton of just downhill mauling people in high school as a left tackle, if I remember correctly. Him in a pass set and pass pro is a huge concern for me, as it is, I'm sure, Coach Rudolph and such. But I don't think that's being talked about enough. And again, that correlates with quarterback play. And are you 1,000% confident your offensive line is going to hold up, pick up blitz schemes? Does that factor into your decision in this huge matchup week 1 and in week 2 with A&M?
One of the things I've learned partnering with you for a while now, when you have reoccurring themes and things you keep bringing up, then I know it really is deep into your head. One of them that cracks me up is you always talk about Rudolph, and you're like, dude, sometimes it drives me nuts when I see everything they're doing and guys here and guys over there that could be over here or should be over here. And you're like, sometimes it drives me nuts. But like, if you arrive to a product that's good enough, then like how you mix the ingredients, it doesn't really matter at that point. It's just interesting to me. You're like, I get frustrated sometimes, but like, if you put a good product out there, it works out.
I was listening to another independent, podcast platform, Irish Breakdown. Brian Driscoll was talking about offensive line, right? Say what you want. I respect Brian. And he was like talking about who can you plug in where, John, right? Can you move this kid over here, this kid over here? He's like, the only player you can't play at guard is Will Black. And I was like, fuck yeah, absolutely. Duh. Guess what? Will Black, go play guard. It's like stuff like that drives you nuts. It just drives you nuts. So we'll see. It doesn't feel like there's been much of a lineman shuffle that you saw the last 2 camps where somebody kind of came out of nowhere, a surprise starter in Pendleton last year. Doesn't feel like that's the case, but when we go into that Miami game, everybody's going to be looking at the quarterback, eyes fixed on the quarterback. Watch defensive line pass rush and watch offensive line pass pro. That's where I'm at.
Good. Another good question by John Massey. Who will be the team's alpha dogs this year? I'm thinking KVA and Snead. We kind of did a little bit of this when we did the Goolsby award show on Patreon, and we handed out some preseason awards of what we think may be a reality there. Really entertaining show. Anybody you think's got that dog in him? I got the dog.
Yeah, I mean, I think Anye's this is kind of a captain question too. I mean, I think Anye's got an interesting story, and he's got a lot of natural juice. Sneed has been vocal about, he wants to be looked at as team leader. I think Bowen's in that conversation. It might be a little KVA carries himself, since John mentioned KVA carries himself a little bit different. And again, I prefer KVA over Sneed, just down to down. It doesn't mean, again, we've been over this a million times, but I think KVA is humble enough to kind of wait his turn to assert himself in that leadership role, like full time. I saw Josh Burnham up at the microphone, just a stud. I remember the first time I saw Josh in person. He's like he's built like a superhero, like 50-inch chest, 32-inch waist. I mean, Josh Burnham seems like he has kind of captain DNA at a place like Notre Dame to me. And then I think, one of these three wide receivers, whether it's Greathouse, you hear great things about Pauling and the way he carries himself. He was a captain, and Fields might have even been a captain. So it strikes a balance between who are your leadership types and who are your best players. Was Ben Morrison that alpha type? No, but he was your best player on defense, arguably. So he was a captain. So is Jeremiah Love going to be a captain? Potentially, right?
Yeah, it's going to be, and like leaders show themselves differently too. Like I think it's okay to have kind of different leaders in a way that different guys could gravitate to depending on their personality or what strikes them. I think that's helpful sometimes to have like different kinds of leadership.
No, it's true. It's true, guys. Yeah, like CJ Carr was brought up and probably has a generic version of he's playing quarterback in a Hollywood movie. That's how CJ Carr, I'm making massive assumptions here. But Kenny might be a guy that's not as classical in terms of his leadership style, but maybe guys want to follow, right? So yeah, ultimately it comes down to if you're going to be a leader, you can't really fuck up. You can't, because you lose credibility. And then I think there's an element of being clutch that comes with leadership, John.
Yeah.
So that's just maybe that's another storyline that hasn't been talked about. Who are you going to be your captains, right?
Yeah, that's another one. All right. I would be remiss if I didn't ask this. Coming into camp and a little bit into camp, everybody was kind of feeling like this wide receiver group, it's a little different. It is not Ohio State. Don't type that in the chat. Well, John, where's our Ohio State guy? It isn't that. But for where Notre Dame's at, seems to be a deeper, more athletic group capable of accomplishing more. Entering the third week of camp, do you still believe that this could be a year where they really take a noticeable jump in that position finally for once?
What position? Oh, wide receiver? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm not going to be allowed to do the positional preview on YouTube this year, which is such a bummer. But that was going to be one of my splash things. I might give that wide receiver room like an A- this year. Of course, that's dependent on quarterback play with a rookie. But I mean, I do think, John, we did it at DB. Corner specifically was a wasteland for 20 years. Unthinkable to have holy shit, we got good corners. We did it. I don't think we're quite there yet at wide receiver, but I do think that we're over that hump.
What a good point. Because for all of that time, you used to just be like, it doesn't matter what else we do. We're going to get cooked on the back end when it matters most because you just can't hang there with our dudes. Literally 20 years. Notre Dame proved if you take it seriously and do the right things, you could flip that whole script. You already proved it. That used to be a historical weakness that used to burn us all the time. You flip that. How do you do it? And then when you start doing that, it gets easier to continue it because people like what they see in the games. Then the guys get drafted and they like seeing that too. That's how you get where Ohio State's wide receiver core is, where it almost recruits itself on lineage.
Well, don't get ahead of yourself, John. Jesus, don't get ahead of yourself.
I mean, it reminds me of that in the secondary, that we're able to lose them and replace them. And it gets easier the more you have credibility there.
That's right. And coming off of a Leonard Moore, last couple thoughts, and I want you to. I always feel bad when I jump in your show because I feel like I'm stepping on your caller, so forgive me. But real quick story about like the wasteland that was cornerback. You know, my senior year, I worked out Derek Anderson, right, quarterback for the Browns. I think he was a second round draft pick. Had a nice NFL career, real tall, long guy. We played Oregon State in our bowl game after Willingham had been fired. And I think they they ran the ball 3 times in the first half. So we both had the same agent, Athletes First, coming out. We worked out for the draft and whatnot. And he was like, dude, who is number so-and-so? He's like, that kid sucked. He's like, we went into that game just knowing all we're going to do is throw the ball because that's how bad our secondary was. And it's been a huge shift. So, and then I do think Jeremiah Love's probably not talked about, and we don't know how specific or how specifically he's going to impact the games. But as you saw in the All-22 on Patreon, last third of the year, that defense was absolutely focused on Jeremiah Love, and we like play action seems to be a new development with Denbrock this year. That's just going to do more for the wide receivers too and create easier, more obvious throws for these young kids at quarterback.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Mike, here's a question. I don't know if this is silly or like a lazy fan trope. I don't know. When the calendar switches from camp mode to Miami mode, is there a vibe shift or like do you feel that everything get ratcheted up when you're going from 3 weeks of camp and it switches to your first opponent prep and everything? Like, is that something you guys feel, or is it just like a natural thing? You're going to the next phase of what you need to do and we just keep it moving? Or do you start getting a little juiced up like, okay, now we're talking Miami, let's get more specific? How does that work when you're transitioning in camp to be able to regulate yourself physically and emotionally?
All right, last question because then I'm leaving. Again, I want your callers to get going. But I would say specifically, it's a great question. I like the way you frame that. I wouldn't say it's like the juice gets ratcheted up, John, because camp is competition. Especially with the most recent spring, like you really didn't do much in terms of hitting and physicality and whatever. So like camp this year, you're hitting the ground running in terms of juice, energy, effort, compete, right? So you get through that kind of threshold. And then when you get into a Miami week, I don't know if the juice ratchets up, John, the focus does. Like, okay, maybe I'm into more film, right? It gets a little bit more like locked in, more dialed in from a preparation standpoint, not from a juice standpoint. But I would think not, the week of, now you can start to take all that preparation that you feel really good about, and you're just going to slather juice all over it. That's the way that process maybe works.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You're answering the question there. Man, this is it's just going to be a stressful run till Miami, man. Nobody knows exactly what you got till you see it, and you just don't know, man. You think you know, but nobody knows for sure what you get until your team gets out there, and it's going to be amazing to watch. It really is.
I'm not stressed out at all. I'm enjoying this quarterback competition. I'm happy with whoever the winner is. I'm not stressed out at all. I think we're going to smoke Miami. You can clip that. Don't care. It's Texas A&M. We could talk about it, but Miami, I'm not. And I don't think Carson Beck is. I said the same thing in that Penn State game against Drew Aller. Drew Aller ain't it. Somebody's talking about alpha dog, alpha DNA, killer DNA. Carson Beck ain't it. As talented as he is, he's talented, but he wouldn't be doing half the stuff he's doing on TikTok and whatnot if he was that dude. He knows better.
And you know what else? I give you credit. You put your money where your mouth is, man. You're betting on those games. You're not just running. You're putting a little cash money down on it too. And I know you're picking Notre Dame week 1.
I'm gonna pick Notre Dame week 1. Starting to do some research. Another Patreon feature, picks to click. They were saying, John, you heard it. People were saying you had to be 70% last year.
You were 70 plus on the picks to click for sure, and it was very impressive. And your methodology
this year. We're going to chart it this year. So,
oh man, and so the pressure's on now. We're going to keep a running chart of the picks week to week for Mike. We're going to see what we get, and then tomorrow night we'll get Jared on. We'll talk all about that.
Yeah.
ND, listen, ND25, get yourself app off, go through camp with us, see Miami, see A&M, and check it out. We're building a fun crew over there. People love the community section, man. It is like, without all the negativity and the trolls, a healthy group of people exchanging Notre Dame ideas on the chat. It's a beautiful thing in the community area.
Yeah, the community tab, it is like texting your boys.
Yeah. All day, all the time, all night.
All day. And you don't have the toxicity that accompanies most message boards. So yeah, it's more wholesome and it's funny. The West Palm Pat thing today about William Joseph had me rolling, dude. It was like the comedic timing was perfect.
Yeah. He always delivers, man. You down with WPP? Yeah, ND. Oh man,
All right,
Mike,
I'm getting out of here, brother. Have a good night,
I
dude.
appreciate it, man. Hey, go on the patio, have a beer, look at the beautiful Nebraska night shine there, and relax before football gets going.
All right, man. I'll see you soon. See you tomorrow.
Have a good one. Thanks for coming by, Mike. Take care. Thank you. Have a good night. Don't forget to check out the merchandise. The link is in the description. You can browse and carouse all the different Always Irish gear. Make sure you head over there and get something for the next tailgate. Thanks for being here.